Hi everyone, welcome back to another chat with myself and the best guys with Bolu and Nonso. Thank you, Bolu and Nonso, for coming. Thank you so much. I'll just introduce you guys for you, but I've said your name. That's all I've said. But just a quick fire thing. I wanted to know, share with all of us one thing, the first thing that comes to your mind that you are most proud of about yourself. So, what is the first sort of thing that comes to your mind that's like your proudest achievement? Nonsense.
Um, I, I lift weights and I have a world record in the deadlift.
Period. Come on. No, Nonso, listen. Bolu knows that I'm kind of obsessed with Nonso. A little bit. But, you know what I mean? You got to be on the winning side. Bolu, how about you? What is one achievement that you really feel proud of?
Surprisingly, the first thing that came to mind for me was moving schools. I don't know why it was such a big thing for me, but it definitely was. And I'm just proud of the way I've handled it and who I've become now. I think it like sped up my maturing process times 10. So yeah, I'm quite proud of that. I think it's definitely not as big as Nonsense, but it's still something.
No, it's huge. Especially, I mean, can we mention the fact that you didn't just move schools, you're like a scholar and everything.
And stuff. Yeah, the scholar and more, but I'll stay humble.
Yeah,
I'm happy that I'm doing well in the new environment. I should say.
Exactly. So they're both really big things, in and of their own rights. And that very much links to what we're talking about today, because we're talking about overcoming doubt and like supercharging your faith. And you guys have just shared one thing each that you're very proud of now, but that thing did not always exist. Nonso did not always have a world record. Bolu did not always have the experience that was moving schools and everything that's come with it. And so it's very possible that those things were once doubts in your mind. And so that's kind of what we want to talk about today, because everybody effectively has moments where they feel like their faith is a bit shaky, where they feel like they're doubting things, questions. Yeah, they're just questioning like everything that they thought they really knew. And so Bolu and Nonso are, people that both have their feet on the ground in the generation Z. I'm saying that I'm like a millennial. I'm Gen Z as well, but anyway. And so like they'll both be able to share like some context on how that's been for them, and how although doubts and fears sometimes shake us, we do have the power to overcome them. So the Bible scripture that I feel is a good one as a foundational basis for this conversation is from Hebrews 11 verse 1, and I feel like everybody knows this one, and it talks about faith being the confidence of what we hope for and the assurance of what we do not see. So I just wanted to throw it out there first of all. What are some sort of common triggers of doubt amongst Christian teenagers? What are some things that make young Christian people doubt themselves?
I would say comparison, personally. There's a saying, comparison is the thief of joy. I would definitely say that's the case because, especially in our like day and age where everything is so accessible, you can always see how other people are doing, even if it's not online. It's like the people around you. There's always someone, quote unquote, like better to compare yourselves to. So I think with comparing to other people, like that kind of gives you a level of instability because you're not tracking your progress based on your personal movements and like who you are. You're tracking your progress. You're tracking your progress based on what other people are doing. So I think, comparison, I'd say, brings that instability and doubt.
So any other thing that you think triggers doubt?
Yeah, I'd definitely say we're in a generation where everything's happens now. You want the reward now. You want instant progress, instant, quick fixes, as they say. And I definitely say Christianity is very patient. You've got to be very patient. So I'd say doubts are caused quite easily because you don't see results now. You pray for something, it doesn't happen within the next week, and you're doubting. I definitely say that's a big issue in our generation.
That is so true. So true. Yeah, and it's almost like the faith that we live by is almost opposite to the world we live in. It's just like, bro, how do we even reconcile this? So yeah, how have you guys reconciled it? What like situations can you guys think of that you remember doubting yourself or doubting your faith, and having come out the other side now, what was that process like?
For me, I think the first instance that comes to mind when I think of like the last time I heavily doubted myself was when I was leaving my old school to my new school. Seems like I talk about moving schools a lot, but it was something that was big. And I remember coming for a sports scholarship assessment at the school I'm at now, and I turned up on the day and I was looking around and there was no one really like me. And that's just like face value, that no one that looked me. And from having conversations with the people, no one that I felt like I even had similarities to. And then on top of that, things I knew I was skilled at my sport. Like I know I am. I know like my physical like capabilities. But then when I was in that situation, I was kind of like, rah, like maybe I won't get the scholarship after all. Because I remember coming with so much confidence that, like, in the back of your mind when you kind of know that you're going to get something. And then in that moment, I began doubting myself because I started looking at other people, and then I'm hearing the girls that said, oh, I've been playing hockey since I was 7. And I'm like, I started in year 8 type of thing. So then the doubt just started like flying in, because it's kind of like what I said about comparison. I'm just looking at other people and I'm like, oh, that's crazy. And yeah, it made me doubt myself. But in the end, it did work out, and like my physical capability was good enough to get that scholarship. But before I got it, I definitely was doubting my ability.
And reflecting on that, what would you have said, or what would you say now to Bolu then? Bolu stood there, no one looked like her. People doesn't even think there's anyone that shares similarities in terms of characteristics with her. How would you advise her, having come out of that situation where she's in the thick of that doubt?
I would say almost like tunnel vision, or like just focus on yourself. And it sounds like easy to say than to actually do. Like you can't focus on yourself when you're amongst like a group of people. You're not the only one there. But in that situation, it's fine to like acknowledge what's around you and to appreciate what's around you. You don't have to appreciate something and depreciate your own. It's not one or the other. They can both be appreciated. So that's what I would have told myself. Okay, these girls are really good at hockey, but so are you. Just because they're good doesn't mean you have to be bad, type of thing. So yeah, that's what I tell myself.
So good. That's so good. I think sometimes we feel like if like there's enough space in the sky. Like we don't have to feel like, oh, someone else is there so I can't be. Why does that invalidate you? So good. Also, how about you? Is there anything, I don't know, that comes to mind that remind time where you experienced doubt or questioned yourself or your faith or anything, and how was that? Talk us through it.
So I'd say at the start of A levels, I picked physics, and me and physics, we really didn't get along. And I remember this one example. I had a test and I'd done everything I can. Like I did all the revision I could, and it was like time for the test now. And I just had so much. I was just like, I'm gonna fail. Like I'd already like accepted it. I was upset. I was in the mood. I just wasn't with it. So I must have got into the test now, and I've seen it, and I just had a complete mind blank on everything. I don't remember anything. I was looking at it, and I remember, and I was like, the test, it didn't go well. And I remember I went back and I was just so angry, and like I was like, oh God, like why would you let that happen to me? I was so like, and I was just like doubting everything. I was can I really do this? It made me doubt a lot. Then I think just randomly the teacher must have been like to me, oh, like, you can do a retest, and then like I didn't even ask for it, like they just let me, but she hadn't marked it yet. I don't really know why. But then did one. I think I was more patient that time, trusted in God, and it went a lot better. So definitely say that was a moment of great doubt.
And again, what would you have said to yourself at the first test?
I definitely say mentality is a big thing. I've gone into it with a negative mindset, and I feel like what you believe in your heart reflects in your actions, and like kind of the vibe you put around yourself. And obviously if you speak negativity into the world, negativity is what you're going to receive. So definitely spin how you're thinking, and also everything happens for a reason. Even if the test doesn't go well, there's a reason. Be thankful regardless and continue moving forward.
I mean, there's one thing you guys have said that I'm just like, okay, this sounds nice, but in reality, like how is this going to work? So you have the fact that you're doubting yourself, and you're doubting yourself in a situation because you don't know what the result is going to be. So how am I supposed to like believe in something that hasn't happened, or like that I don't really have any strong evidence that it's going to happen? How do I show and demonstrate maybe faith in that way? How is that even possible?
I think again, I feel like with a lot of this, it does sound easier said than done, but for me, I would say try and look at it from like a less emotional point of view. And because when we're emotional, we tend to focus more on the negatives than the positives, even if they are completely equal. You tend to like put bigger focus on, okay, I might not get this because, but less focus on actually, yeah, I can get this because of this. So I think I would say like be more like completely unbiased type things when you look at a situation. So rather than like doubting yourself because I can't do this, and you can big up yourself because I can do this, almost like evening it out. I think looking at things more like logically, because with doubt, a lot of the time doubt does come from a place of emotion, I think. So if we kind of try and remove that negative emotion from the scenario, then we're more likely to be able to have that faith, because it's like you're not just focusing on the negatives, you see that there are obvious positives as well. You're just not choosing to like be blinded to them.
So anything to add?
Definitely say confidence is a big thing. If you're able to stay confident, and I think it's important that you're confident in the right thing. Obviously you should be confident about yourself. You need to understand that confidence comes from God, so staying confident in God, and you need to be be a firm believer that, you know, he has a plan for you, and that plan is of good and not for evil. You know, you trust in him and you're confident that everything will work out for your good. And I just say, like, definitely spinning your mentality in that type of way kind of builds like a solid rock foundation. Like, nothing can really shake you if you know at the end of the day, God has a plan and I'm confident in it.
That is so good. And I think it's really important to understand that, or it's easier to trust and be confident in God when you understand and believe that God is the Alpha and the Omega. I think we're okay with God being the Alpha. Like, yeah, you knew me, you know, when I was born. But we need to be confident in him being the end as well. Not just the beginning, but also the end. And that's the end of our lives. As in, he has the foresight to have seen so far ahead. He knows exactly how he plans for this to end, our lives to end. So this one situation in your life right now is literally the tiniest, it's one page in the book that God has already written and signed. So like, we need to have confidence in him, not just as the Alpha, I'd say, but also as the Omega of our life. And that for me would really definitely help with the mentality, the perspective, unbiasedness that you both spoken about. But how about if I can't really have confidence in God because the doubt I have is in God, as per I'm doubting my faith, I'm questioning my faith. Where do I go from there?
I definitely say that I've had that, and one thing that really helped is reading your Bible and having scriptures for certain things. And for me, I just keep it in my notes. Like, I'll have notes and it'll be of scriptures, and there's so many different scenarios I have them for, and I'll read through, and it kind of just, even if it doesn't reinstill your faith fully, it can shake off that doubt a little bit, and it allows room for you to grow and start trusting and build your faith again. I definitely say that's like a big help, because I feel like you personalize it to yourself, so it definitely hits more.
Reading your Bible, and how that kind of serves as a reminder maybe of the promises that, you know, exist and have been spoken over us. Yeah, so good. Bolu, what would you say when someone is in the midst, in the thick of doubting their faith? Where do you even go from there?
I would say to persevere, and it sounds very like, yay, persevere, like it's so easy. Obviously it's not, but I think in the sense that, like, when I have been in places of doubt, and I'm like, I don't really want to read my Bible, like I don't want to do that, almost like forcing myself to and just doing it anyway. And then I find that once I've gotten myself into that presence, I do feel a bit better. And obviously it's not going to be like an immediate, like you feel reformed and everything's come back, but I think almost just like forcing yourself to do something, and that something being obviously like reading the Bible, praying, spending time in God's word. I think once you've gotten yourself to do it, then from there it's more likely, not always, but it's more likely to kind of flow. So it's kind of just like, even if a part of you doesn't want to, kind of just like get yourself up and just be in that word anyway, because you know that's what's best.
Now I remember when I was in school, I was gonna make a reference to the fact that we went to the best school, but Bolu's not currently there, so
neither is not so.
Okay, yeah, but at least he's well. Anyway, I remember at school anyway, studying especially philosophy. I was going to say TP, studying philosophy. And you know, like learning all these different like worldviews and learning all these different ways of life, and having people like genuinely vocalize and articulate like arguments for and against things that I believe in. I'm not going to lie, there are certain moments that like somebody's coming at me with like an opposing argument, like an opposing theological argument to what I believe in. They're coming at me with the cosmological argument. They're coming at me with the ontological argument. You know, they're coming at me with the Big Bang Theory. It's just an example. But I guess the question is more widely in terms of like even just our learning and how we want to improve ourselves as Christians and stuff like that. Like, we're not going to exempt ourselves from improvement. But how do you reconcile that kind of situation where you're, you know, improving yourself, but in doing so, you're receiving and you're learning things that are not necessarily very consistent with your faith? If it's easier, you can put yourself back in that situation or being in that classroom, and you know somebody's literally like, you're confronting, for lack of a better word, you with the deontological argument. How do you handle that? How do you navigate that kind of situation?
I think for me, and funnily enough, I have been in like situations like that, obviously doing religious studies and having those kind of discussions. I think maybe I am lucky enough that like in those situations, 9 out of 10 times I'm presented with like evidence and facts, but that is so opposite to faith, because I know that faith is what you cannot see. Whereas people who are not Christians might not be able to like appreciate that, and they just present you with facts and numbers and logic and science. So because I know that, okay, well, my faith isn't written on paper, my faith is not an equation, my faith is not like one of these theories, I think that kind of allows me to just stick with what I know anyway, because it's like, I know I'm not going to be able to see it in front of me. I know a scientist is not going to be able to prove my faith ever. But then if they could do that, then it wouldn't be faith. Because faith is what you do not see and what you do not know. You kind of just expect, like, you know it's there. You don't have to see it to know. So yeah, I think for me, it's knowing what faith actually is and then sticking with that, rather than expecting something from faith that faith is not. Like, you're expecting evidence from faith, or you're expecting science from faith, when that's just not what it is. Yeah,
bro, that needs to be, I was gonna say print on a t-shirt, but then the t-shirt is gonna be a bloody dress, because that was a paragraph. But that was so good. Love. Don't so add what in that situation.
I'd definitely say you be honest. If you don't know the answer, you can. I don't think it's a bad thing to say you don't know. I think you follow up. The follow up is what's important. You do research for yourself. I definitely say that's a big thing in Christianity that people are scared of. Is they kind of just they hear something or they're asked a question that causes not necessarily doubt, but it can be interest. But like it kind of just makes them think, like I don't really know the answer. I think that's how you grow. You learn the answer and you learn more about your faith, and that's how you grow. So I definitely say you go, and I'd say some people say go to more experienced Christians and ask them, but I personally say you need to do it for yourself, because no matter, even if someone doesn't want to, they're going to have a slight bias, and to get the full information and like to understand, like you want to be able to process it for yourself and make decisions for yourself. I definitely say you need to do the research.
Then you guys need to open a ministries. What's it? BN Ministries? No, because this is, oh my god, no. And nonso, you're lifting weights in the physical, but in the spiritual realm, you're going to be lifting and throwing principalities and powers. What? No, honestly, you guys are spitting so many facts. Like, yes, everything you said. So I wanted to ask, we live in the physical world, right? And we take on a belief system that is entirely opposite to the physical. How do you guys have that interplay in your daily life?
That's actually quite a hard question. I think I would say like understanding what's your flesh and what's your spirit. I think if you can't distinguish the two, then there can't really be interplay. I think I would just call that confusion. But I think if you can understand the two and separate like what is like your flesh, like what your flesh desires and worldly desires versus like your spirit man, I think you can actually allow interplay to happen because you understand them. And if you don't understand them, then there's going to be conflict. But I think if you can get a grasp of the two worlds, then you can allow them to like coexist peacefully rather than constantly clashing with like what your flesh wants versus what your spirit wants.
I definitely say, like as a newborn Christian, the flesh is more powerful than the spirit. And I'd say you like Bolu's gone at it in a way of saying it's not a combat, but I'd almost not disagree, but look at it differently and say your spirit needs to overcome your flesh for them to be able to both to coexist, to interplay, like you said. You need to be more powerful in the spirit than in the flesh, because if you're not, you're going to end up borderline lukewarm Christian, the term, and that I feel like that's very dangerous waters to be in. So I definitely say like your spirit, you need to grow in your faith, grow in the word, have a close connection with God. But I definitely think you can like live both, like have both in your life, and they coexist and they aren't constantly battling each other. I definitely think there will be scenarios where they meet and you're questioned with a decision. But I feel like the stronger you're on your faith, the less it is a battle, more just a quick decision of, of course I'm going to pick the spirit.
Very good. Wally, do you want to respond or do you agree?
I definitely agree. I think he kind of took what I said and then like added more like a better twist to it. I think, yeah, with your flesh and your spirit man coexisting, it shouldn't always be peaceful, like Nonso said. Like there is going to be that old conflict and that old clash where it's like your flesh wants this, but your spirit knows it's not right. So I guess with the way like Nonso phrased it does make more sense that your spirit should be the dominating of the two. It shouldn't really be a 50-50. Your flesh should not hold as much power over you as your spirit man should. So yeah, I agree with him 100%.
Yeah, that's good. I think at the end of the day, it starts off with it being a constant battle. Like, and then like Nonso says, the more you feed one, the more the other dies because it's not being nourished. And then it's not so much of a battle because we know who the boss is here. Like my spirit knows that, or my flesh knows that my spirit is where it's at, sort of thing. And so even my flesh wants to comply with what my spirit is doing. So yeah, that's so good. That's really good. I wanted to just ask, like, I gave an example of my own like experience of doubting my faith specifically. Was there ever a time that maybe you had a specific, it could be like a specific point that somebody raised that made you think, another thing, just to give you an example that, I've had is, for example, sex before marriage, and how like it has been brought to my attention how, for example, there's this whole like concept of try before you buy. And people have like presented that to me in a logical way as per like, you wouldn't just you wouldn't make a huge investment in something without testing it out. So why are you going to do that with your life and the person you're going to spend the rest of your life with? So that's an example of something that, has maybe cast some doubt or could cast some doubt on what I believe. Is there anything like that for you guys?
Yeah, I think there might even be a few things, but I think the biggest one that is like more frequently brought to my attention is just pain, war, like conflict, that kind of thing. Just people asking why does God allow that to happen? And it's funny because it's such a simple question, but it's just like, it's one that's actually very impactful, because as much as like sometimes if I'm asked that question, I would know how to answer it and I believe what I'm saying. Other times when I ask that question, I'm like, well, that's actually a very good question. And I think I find it more difficult to ask that question when someone speaks from like a personal point of view. So I remember the last time I was asked that was earlier this year. One of my friends lost someone close to them. And I remember she said to me, this is one of the reasons why I can never believe in God. Because why? Like, why would he allow that to happen? Why do good people have to go through pain? Why do good people have to die? Why is there war? You know, that kind of thing. So I think that would be like the one question that occasionally does like plant a little seed of doubt in my mind. But I wouldn't say it's like something I really struggle with, but like if it was going to be anything, I think it would be that.
Also?
I feel like my question is if someone asked me, and I don't think it's a complex question, but it really like not rattled, but got me thinking. And it was just like, do you like believe everything in the Bible, like that it happened, like account for account, as in Jesus fed the 5,000, Jesus brought people from the dead, all of that. And obviously my answer was yes. But then I was thinking like, okay, like about every single scenario, and I was just, it's not that I doubted, but necessarily, but it just made me question. I kind of thought about it, and that kind of question just, I don't know, it kind of like intrigued me. But
And would you guys say that you have answers, or that you've come to like a place of, even if you don't have an answer, you've come to a place of like some sort of rest with these questions that you have? And if so, what is that place of rest? What does that consist of?
If I'm being realistic, I think I would say no.
Yeah.
Because I think one day, like I said, I could answer that question and genuinely believe what I'm saying. Like, good and bad things happen to good people, you know, the whole like they're in a better place now, that kind of thing. And then there are other days like if someone asks me, it's like, bro, me and you both, like, I want to know too, type of thing. So I can't say I'm consistently in one mindset. Like there are times where it would fluctuate. So I'm going to say no to that.
I'd probably agree. Definitely fluctuates. I feel like there's some times where I feel like I have a grasp on it. Then it's like another thing comes into the picture, and I'm like, it's like constantly just thinking. And I feel like it's not a bad place to be. I just think it's good to, you know, question, because it makes you firmer. And I feel like it's a thing where you question your firmer, So I definitely say that's kind of where I'm at.
100%. And again, you guys are like just keeping it real, which is what I feel like is the actual value of this kind of conversation. So thank you so much for just like bringing it to the real world and almost leaving us having a conversation about doubt in a place of not absolute certainty, because that's just reality. Like, we don't know everything. We probably will never know everything. But like Nonso said, these kind of conversations are so enriching because they help us think, they help us question. Questioning is not a bad thing, especially if it helps you grow. So thank you guys just for being so open and for like sharing what your own personal experiences have been in such a sensitive situation, because it's not something you've fully come out of yet. So honestly, I really admire that, and I'm really grateful for that as well. And everyone watching, like, if peradventure, let me sound like a Nigerian, if peradventure you have the answers to the questions that we have raised as, you know, questions that have planted some doubt in our minds, then please feel free to leave them in the comments. Like, leave your answers. We'll actually be interested in reading them, and maybe that will, you know, remove the doubt that we have in that particular area. But if, like us, you too have questions and some doubts that you have, also leave those questions in the comments. That just shows balance, and that's literally the reality of our lives as young Christians. But I think on this note, we've come to a perfect place to, you know, draw a line. And I just want Bolu and Nonso to just say something. It can be a prayer, it can be a word of advice, it can be telling them to comment, subscribe, whatever it is, as your last. Bolu?
My last words would be that you're not alone. I think it's very important for all Christians and even like non-Christians to know that you have someone, you have people that are just like you. And even if it feels like your scenario is so specific and so why me, there's also someone else saying why me. So it's kind of like why us. So you're with other people, like you've got other people to support you, like whether you feel alone or not. And it doesn't have to be other people like friends. God is also always there, like without fail, all the time. So yeah, you're never alone. Yeah, that would be my last words.
Thank you. Nonso?
I just say every journey is unique. Do what works for you, and obviously ask for advice along the way, because this isn't a road you embark on alone. But find what works for you, and like just keep going every day.
I mean, they've said it all. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Please, if you feel like Bolu and Nonso have, you know, impacted us the way I feel like they have, then, you know, celebrate them, man. Like, leave a comment, thumbs up, all of this good stuff. You know, subscribe and just encourage them because they've just been fantastic. So thank you, Bolu and Nonso, once again, and thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.